Good afternoon and welcome to KTN News Desk this Monday, the 20th of June. We are glad you are with us. We want to bring you up to date with the top stories. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. Now, let's start with the news that broke earlier this morning. 5 police officers have been killed and their bodies burned in an al-Shabaab attack in Mander County. The attack, in which a GK vehicle was burnt, is reported to have happened at the Daba city area of El Wak. The officers are reported to have been escorting a passenger bus headed to Nairobi when their vehicle was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. Mander County Police Commander Job Boronjo has confirmed the morning attack. Mander Governor Ali Roba has condemned the attack, saying locals shared information about a possible attack but was not taken seriously. Okay, we'll be getting the audio of the county commander in just a moment, but I see Chris Dyer standing by, so let's have the conversation about that. Court has suspended all anti-IBC demos, saying there was hope for a deal with Jubilee on how to move forward with the issue. The coalition says they're now all set for the formation of a bipartisan select committee. Let's speak to Chris Dyer now with some details on that. Chris, good afternoon. So what do we know and what is the next step in the formation of this committee?
Well, a very good afternoon to you and our viewers. What we know is that they've been a long meeting this morning from both sides of the divide. That's CORD and Jubilee, and much ground has already been covered. This afternoon, we expect a media briefing from the opposition CORD just to tell us the next step that they will be taking. What we know is that they've already agreed that from both sides of the coalition, they'll have one representative who will be a non-parliamentarian and who will serve as a secretary to both teams. And we also know that they've also agreed that they'll have 7 members from both sides. And we also know that from 14 members, when it comes to voting, then the 2/3 of the composition of the team, that is 9 members, at least they've agreed on that. And they've also agreed that these talks will be held wherever, if at all, not necessarily within Parliament precincts, but even at the county level. Remember that this committee that will be tasked to ensure that they unlock this IEBC stalemate will also go around the country and visit different counties as they collect views within Kenyans, just to bring on board views from different aspects and different backgrounds regarding the necessary electoral reforms that are needed ahead of the 2017 general elections. So there's good progress, and maybe today and tomorrow we'll be expecting that the list of the joint committee will have already been passed by both teams, so that maybe come Wednesday or Thursday that the list will be tabled in Parliament for approval, and maybe Monday come next week, then this team will be ready for dialogue. Yvonne?
All right, Chris, finally, do we have any, and I know you've given us a couple of timelines, what happens between now and Monday, but as the Joint Select Committee that will be put together, or those who are steering this on either side, do they have some sort of timelines that this must be concluded by a certain date, the talks must be done by date X, and, you know, depending on the outcome, of course?
Of course, they agreed that when they'll begin, the first day when they'll begin these talks, then they will have a timeline of 30 days, that is 1 month, to ensure that they go around the country, collect views, agreed on the amendments or the necessary changes that they need in the electoral process, and then from there bring these amendments to the National Assembly for approval. But of course, they'll have already been signed by the 2 principals from both coalitions, that the president, and on this other side we'll have the co-principal Raila Odinga, who will append their signatures to the motion that this team will have already agreed upon. And from there, then they'll have, at least they've given a duration of 1 month, that all these will happen within 1 month. And by the end of the 30 days when these talks will begin, then they will have already agreed on the amendments, and already these amendments will be tabled before the floor of the House for approval, and then later will just be amending the constitution where it is necessary, especially the IEBC Act, Yvonne.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris Irie joining us from our City Center studio. He has been following this issue regarding IEBC and of course gives us the latest on the formation of that Joint Select Committee, some light at the end of the tunnel regarding that stalemate there. Chris Irie, thank you very much as always. Now, today is the World Refugee Day and it's celebrated every 20th of June every year. And of course, this year it's taking a look at the plight of refugees, one of the highest numbers we've seen in recent times. We understand the international numbers are a little more than 10 million refugees around the world. Quite a number of issues we've been seeing, not just locally, but internationally as well, considering that Kenya is in the process of closing the Dadaab camp by November this year. Commemorations for this day are being held at the National Museum. So let's take you there live now and listen in to the proceedings of the commemoration of World Refugee Day here in Nairobi.
All right. Okay. Let's appreciate them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that's from the South Sudanese. Do you remember their greetings? You remember how I told you? What do you say? What do you say?
At the National Museums today for World Refugee Day.
Right. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Today, as you know, is World Refugee Day 2016. The theme for this year is Get to Know Refugees, people like you and me. And this theme is very important. As you know, there's stigma that is involved and associated with people who are refugees. So throughout the day, there have been a very colorful events with, entertainment from the prison band, from people from Burundi, from the Rwandese, from the Sudanese, and just entertaining us and being thankful for the fact that they have been hosted by Kenya. But of course, the touchy subject, as you know, Yvonne, is the fact that the Dadaab closure that is expected to happen in November was a very heated topic of discussion, with the U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Robert Godek, giving his sentiments and saying that the refugees should stay. He says actually in his own words that they, as the U.S. government, they do stand with the refugees, and the decision for the refugees to go back home should be by their own volition and not to be forced. And if they are to return home, and because, most of them are of Somali descent, it should be by their own volition and not to be forced, and it should be in a very humane way, Yvonne.
All right. Mukami, of course, the talks around Dadaab, we've heard of the U.S. Ambassador, Bob Godek, speaking about that. But tell us who else is set to speak about this issue and what's set to happen. Like you said, it was a heated debate here. There are court cases on the same. We know the UN has agreed to the closure of that. But what are the sentiments from some of those refugees that are present there?
The refugees are, of course, thankful very much for the opportunity that they have been in Kenya. Most of them have been integrated into the Kenyan system, and some of them even hold IDs and are Kenyan citizens. But the main challenge, Yvonne, is the fact that these refugees feel like they do not know their former homes. For example, those ones who lived in Somalia. Yvonne, as you know, Dadaab has been open for the past 25 years with the 1991 civil war that happened in Somalia, which is the reason why Dadaab was opened in the first place. So for them, they feel like they are heartbroken, and they feel like this is a betrayal by the Kenyan government on their part, because they felt like Somalia right now and Kenya have a very close relationship because of the opening opening of the Dadaab camp. And what they're saying is they want more time, Yvonne, because November is such a short time. It's around 6 months from now for them to vacate Dadaab and also other parts of the country that they may be inhabiting, Yvonne.
Do we have government presence? Are you seeing government officials? We know the Department of Refugee Affairs has been disbanded by the government now, but are you seeing any government officials present at the function right now?
There are government officials, Yvonne, that are yet to speak later on. And of course, the main topic of discussion will be about the Dadaab closure that is set to happen in November. Yvonne.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you very much. Mukami Mwara, following the commemoration of World Refugee Day today at the National Museums here in Nairobi, Kenya. We will definitely be linking up with her for more developments on the same. That is an event that is happening now, and we'll continue to give you live updates on that. Well, something else that is happening in the country, and that is the coastal city of Mombasa, and that is the annual head teachers meeting. Let's speak to Francis Ontomwa now, who joins us from Mombasa. Francis, good afternoon. So tell us what is slated for the meeting, what's the aim, what's the theme this year?
Well, good afternoon, Yvonne, and yes, we are in the 41st edition of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Conference here at the Wild Waters, Mombasa. And it's a day, of course, that is, of course, expected to be a day to stock check, to look back and to look at the present and, of course, look into the future of the education sector here in Kenya. But it's a day that Yvonne has begun with lots of controversies, and this has everything to do with the Teacher Service Commission. Some of the fresh code of conduct they are mooting into the profession, and this has already started to spark rather jitters from different quarters. The teacher unions are currently holed up in a meeting with the Teacher Service Union to try and deliberate on some of these issues that have, of course, ignited a lot of debate here, and of course, top of them being the question of wealth declaration. There is a provision that they are trying to moot here, and they are saying that any teacher who has been employed must declare, make some declaration of wealth within 30 days, and thereafter, when the person is leaving service, he must also declare within 30 days to declare the wealth. And this is something that looks like is sparking a lot of collision here between the employer and, of course, the teachers. This is a discussion that is currently ongoing at the Mombasa Beach Hotel, and therefore you can see there are parallel meetings, one at the Mombasa Beach Hotel, and there is the other one at the Wild Waters that has the head teachers. This is a point that, of course, will continue to have a lot of discussion, because another point of collision has been teachers' involvement in politics. They are coming with new directives that teachers should completely not participate as agents of any political party, also participate as candidates while serving as teachers. These are 2 points of collision and many other provisions that are contained in this fresh code of conduct by TSC that are likely to continue making a lot of discussions here, Yvonne.
Right, Francis, I imagine another discussion on the table might be the issue of job evaluation by the SRC. We know this has been a sticking point between the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and the teachers and TSC. I imagine that's tied into wealth declaration, but is this something that's going to be discussed as well?
Well, of course, that has been, of course, a huge debate in the education sector, and it cannot be rolled out because teachers have already been, time and again, been agitating for better pay, and of course, it has been a road that has been that has taken years to really try and bargain for this better package. Therefore, it's a discussion that cannot be rolled out in this particular meeting. But of course, all eyes still on this particular code of conduct, Yvonne, as I indicated earlier, because we have seen actually, we were trying to talk to the Kenya National Union of Teachers officials, Wilson Sosion, and also another official of Kupet here to try and hear what they have about, or what is the general feeling on this fresh code of conduct. And it looks like there is no truth as far as an agreement is concerned, and they are currently holed up in that particular meeting. And any time from now, they should be out to talk to us and really explain affairs on how they are going to tread on this one, because it looks like they want to have a common ground before they actually get to meet the head teachers at Wild Waters.
Right, and Francis, this comes at a time when we're hearing of an alleged rift within the teachers' union, having Sosion on one hand and the other officials on the other. I wonder if that will play out at all, even in the talks, because there seems to be an emerging rift amongst the officials of the union.
Well, of course, in the last couple of days, Yvonne, yes, we've witnessed the teacher service, the giant body, Kenya National Union of Teachers, having some sort of rift at the top of, or rather the helm of this body. And right now, at this juncture, they look like they are united against TSC. And at this juncture, really, this rift may not really play out clearly in this particular meeting. But later on, of course, this is an issue that it's an in-house problem within this body. And many a times they have come out to say that all is well. But this juncture, perhaps this may not really show up in this particular meeting. But yes, there are problems at the helm of this body, and of course, that are yet to be sorted out. Maybe it's important also to point out another sticky affair, Yvonne, that might also be another point of discussion here. There is that discussion on regulating teachers' relations with students. That is the question of controlling the sex pests that have, of course, been sprouting at different schools in Kenya. That is a discussion, and I believe that will actually have no much controversy, because every teacher should actually be against the sex pest in secondary schools. That is, of course, will be a point of agreement. But many other areas that the Teacher Service Commission is trying to push may actually not be taken lightly at this particular meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Francis Ontoma from Mombasa for the head teachers meeting that is ongoing. They're discussing a number of issues, wealth declaration, a code of conduct for head teachers there, and we'll continue to follow up on that issue. Let's now take you back to our top story this afternoon, and this is regarding that attack in Mandera earlier today. Mandera Police County Commander Joe Boronjo confirmed an attack and flew to the area. Let's listen to what he had to say about this attack, in which 5 police officers have been killed in an apparent al-Shabaab attack in Mander County.
So something, it was up there, they had enough time over the night. Then they attacked the vehicle which was escorting this bus. They ambushed maximally. And then what we are getting from the source, from the ground, is that out of the 9 officers who were the escort, 5 of them succumbed to injuries. They shot me, 5 of them. And the vehicle is burned, extensively burned. So otherwise the rest of the officers are safe. The sub-county committee are on the ground. They are pursuing the bandits.
How many were on board?
They were 9.
9.
And how many buses were in the convoy?
Yeah.
How many only bus was in the convoy?
It was 1 bus. Okay. It was 1 bus. And 1 cruiser escort of our, 1 section of the land cruiser, composed of 9 officers. Ambush, 5 of them succumbed to injuries. Okay. And then thereafter, after the contact, I think the rest of the officers on pursuit of the criminals. Those ones who are inside, I think that they fired FRG. The vehicle got burned, and the 2 occupants in front of the vehicle actually were burned beyond. But let's just say that 5 of them are burned.
All right, that right there was the voice of Mander County Police Commander Job Boronjo confirming that morning attack. This is what we know right now. A GK vehicle was burnt, and this attack is reported to have happened at Daba City area in Elwak. And this was a police vehicle escorting a bus. The officers were escorting a passenger bus that was headed to Nairobi, and the vehicle was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. Al-Shabaab believed to have been behind the attack. The Mandera Governor Ali Roba is saying that locals had shared information about a possible attack, but that information was not taken seriously. 5 police officers, we understand, have been killed in that attack. That is our top story this afternoon right here on Newsdesk. Let's take a quick break. We will be right back.
Been served with a retirement letter by the Judicial Service Commission, because the tribunal will now make a determination as to if the sittings of that tribunal are proper, given that the judge that they have been investigating is now a retired judge, and therefore somehow technically some might argue that that of course terminates the sittings of the tribunal. But again, according to some legal thinkers, perhaps in future, to know who has been keen to clear his name of the, bribery allegations that are facing him, might want to pursue an alternative means upon which he can clear his name. And one of those means would be to, again, sue. If he could sue his accusers that are, raising the claims of bribery against him. But again, at the same time, the tribunal will be, of course, walking an extremely tight rope in making that determination, because whichever verdict they arrive at finally has a bearing on the legacy of the Supreme Court of Kenya, and again, the legacy of one of the longest-serving judges in the Kenyan judiciary. He has been in the system for over 30 years, and therefore the tribunal will be extremely under extreme circumstances to come to a verdict which is not only within the confines of the law, but one which does not in any way jeopardize the legacy of the Supreme Court.
Right. Murimi, we understand there could also be a number of other options. You're talking about Justice Tunoi perhaps suing, but we also understand the ethics and anti-corruption could also step in to investigate the matter, because there is an allegation of corruption here.
Yes, Yvonne, and again, that would, of course, force the office of the Director of Public Prosecution to even pursue that matter even further, because this is an issue of bribery, and it's a bribery that's not only facing a senior judge of the Supreme Court, now retired, but also a governor of the city of Nairobi, and therefore those are two options that can be pursued by whichever party to bring a closure to the matter. But again, that only happens if the tribunal that is sitting tomorrow makes a decision to terminate their sitting. In the event that they want to pursue longer sittings, then that would mean that the tribunal will be the one to bring the matter to a closure. But again, another technicality that comes in, Yvonne, is the fact that the decision of the tribunal can only be appealed at the Supreme Court. Right. And that would mean that if the verdict is arrived at tomorrow, Tunoi might have to only appeal at the Supreme Court, which is not properly constituted as of now, because only 4 judges are available to hear that matter.
Okay, all right. Still going back to the conundrum that exists at the Supreme Court until it is fully constituted. Thank you very much, Murimi Mwangi, on what to expect with the Tunoi probe that resumes tomorrow. This comes on the back of that decision that was made and that ruling that was delivered by the Supreme Court to retire Justice Philip Tunoi. Let's go to some international news now, and a top story happening in Afghanistan. It's about an explosion that hit a minibus in the Afghan capital, Kabul, early this morning, killing and wounding several people, although it was not immediately clear who was on board the bus. A Reuters witness saw several apparently dead victims and at least 2 wounded being carried out of the vehicle while police and emergency service vehicles rushed to the scene. Now, there was some... Good afternoon, and thanks for staying with us on KTN News Desk. Let's update you now on our top story this afternoon. 5 police officers have been killed and their bodies burnt in an al-Shabaab attack in Mander County. The attack, in which a GK vehicle was burnt, is reported to have happened at the Daba city area of El Wak. The officers are reported to have been escorting a passenger bus headed to Nairobi when their vehicle was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. Mander County Police Commander Job Boronjo has confirmed the morning attack. The Mandera Governor Ali Roba has condemned the same, saying locals shared information about a possible attack, but that information was not taken seriously. Now, Jubilee leaders are currently holed up in a meeting to finalize plans for its affiliate members to merge. Our reporter Sharon Momanyi has been closely following this story and now gives us an update on the progress of the planned merger. Sharon, good afternoon. How far is the meeting in? Have you heard anything from it?
Right. Good afternoon, Yvonne. Indeed, the Jubilee Merger Steering Committee is currently meeting here in Karen at the KCB Leadership Center, and they have been in a closed-door meeting since 10 a.m., so we are yet to get information. But, of course, what they are deliberating on is the final, process of how to go about this merger at the steering party meeting. What they are doing is that the legal committee of that particular steering committee, led by the TNS Secretary General was expected to be tabling a final document just proposing a way forward regarding party rules and the merger process, of course also deliberating on nomination and election process. So it will be of interest to see what exactly they will have arrived at, and of course what part of the committee members were saying is that this is expected to be the last meeting they have, in the run-up to the launch of this party. They are confident that this should be launched in the next coming weeks. And of course, last week on Wednesday, the Senate, passed the bill, the political parties bill, which then paves way for the dissolution of constituent parties. Of course, some of the constituent parties have been having cold feet with regard to dissolving their own individual parties. The biggest concern being, internal democracy. But, the leaders of this steering committee, led by Meru Senator Kiraitu Murungi and the co-chair Noah Wekesa, are saying that there is no turning back, that this is all systems go. And with the passing of that particular bill, when the president comes back, they expect that he will sign this into an act, and then that the party is set to be launched, Yvonne. So we'll still wait for them to come out of that meeting to get particular details on what they have arrived at.
All right, thank you very much, Sharon Mamanyi, following closely the meeting that has been ongoing from 10 a.m. today. The affiliate parties of the Jubilee Alliance merging ahead of 2017 to form the JAP Party. Thank you very much, Sharon Mamanyi, for that. Now, we've been telling you all day today that it is World Refugee Day. The theme focusing on refugees just like you and me. That is part of the theme there. The commemoration of this day is happening right now at the Nairobi Museums. Now, lots of government officials, NGOs, the UNHCR, of course, leading this, as well as diplomats who are present at this event. U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Bob Godek, is present, and he made these remarks at Nairobi Museums just a short while ago. Listen in.
Principal Secretary Rungu, UN Resident Coordinator Sid Chatterjee, UNHCR Country Rep Rauf Mazu, Mabibi na mabwana, hamjambo, habari zenu, mambo, poa. So, first of all, I'd like to say a very big thanks to the host of this event, to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Country Representative Rauf Mazu, and an entire UNHCR team. Thank you for putting this on, another wonderful event to celebrate refugees. And I also want right at the outset as well to express the deep appreciation of the government and people of the United States to the government and people of Kenya for their long history of hosting refugees and providing protection to people fleeing persecution, conflict, and other forms of insecurity. You know, I think it's particularly important on a day like today, on World Refugee Day, that we say thank you to Kenya and to the other hosts around the world who have done so much to help protect refugees over many years. So thank you, Kenya, government, people, thank you all of you very much. Every year, the number of women and children, men who are forcibly displaced has been rising. In recent years, it's been quite an unfortunate climb. This year, it's climbed by over 5 million people, so now we're an estimated over 65 million, 21 million refugees. The rest are internally displaced persons. And tragically, of course, half of these refugees are children. Most of them have been uprooted by conflict. And in a world that is struggling, frankly, with war and insecurity, humanitarian leadership is absolutely essential. In crisis after crisis, the hard work of diplomats and development workers, all sorts of different folks, have helped to keep borders open and aid flowing. And this all has saved, and continues to save, will continue to save millions of lives. And it really is essential work. It's essential that we keep borders open. It's essential that we allow aid to continue to flow, that we continue to provide for the most vulnerable people in the world. The United States contributes more than any other country to humanitarian operations around the world. Last year, our humanitarian assistance exceeded $6 billion US. And this includes more than $105 million in humanitarian assistance to refugees here in Kenya. So over 10 billion Kenya shillings. And the operations that we and other donors fund deliver essential life-saving assistance: food, shelter, medical care, clean water, sanitation, many different things. They protect the rights of the displaced, care for survivors of gender-based violence, reunite families, educate children, and help people gain the skills they need to support themselves and their families. But you know, it is absolutely no secret, certainly no secret to anyone here in this room, that the humanitarian system is under great strain. Every year, the needs outstrip the resources available, and the changing nature of the crises presents new challenges to all of us. The amount of time refugees typically spend in exile has stretched from months to years, and in many places, including here in Kenya, now decades. So humanitarian and development agencies are collaborating in new ways to get help to refugees and communities that host them. The United States and other donors are enlisting the World Bank and other multilateral development banks to provide new forms of financing to countries that are struggling to care for large numbers of refugees. We're also supporting global measures to modernize the humanitarian system and meet ever-mounting needs. At the World Humanitarian Summit in May, representatives from around the world discussed how we could do more to share responsibility, coordinate humanitarian and development aid, and stop governments and combatants from violating international humanitarian law. And to move forward on these issues, President Obama will host a summit on refugees at the UN General Assembly later this year. And this summit is intended to leverage new resources and new international commitments to address the growing global refugee crisis, including new help to address protracted displacement, such as that here in Kenya and elsewhere in the Horn of Africa. At the same time, the United States is expanding its own resettlement program to admit as many as 85,000 refugees this year, up from the target of 70,000 that we've had for the past 3 years. The United States permanently resettles more refugees than all the other countries around the world combined. You know, we're very proud of our resettlement program, but you know, frankly, it is inspired by the vitality that refugees bring to the United States. Many start new businesses, revitalize neighborhoods, and give back to their communities. Their courage and achievements are a powerful rebuke to the bigotry and brutality that has chased so many people from their homes in all too many countries around the world. We also recognize the commitment and generosity of countries such as Kenya that provide safe haven to refugees as they wait for more permanent, durable solutions. As President Obama said during his historic visit here last year, Kenya continues to carve out a distinct place in the community of nations as a source of peacekeepers for places torn apart by conflict and as a host for refugees driven from their homes. Kenya's support has provided a lifeline in a time of need to some of the world's most vulnerable. Now, most of the refugees, of course, dream of the day they can go home. And the international community supports efforts to help refugees return home when conditions allow them to do so. But this choice must be made voluntarily by each refugee at a time when they feel it's safe for them and their families to go home. Frameworks such as the tripartite agreement between UNHCR and the governments of Kenya and Somalia provide an excellent mechanism to ensure that refugees returning home voluntarily can do so in safety and dignity. We must recognize that refugees and others forced from their homes by conflict are no different from each of us. They're no different from anyone around the world. They're fleeing violence and the threat of death. They want a roof over their heads and food for their families. They want peace and security for their communities. And our humanity demands that we help them meet these most basic needs and that we treat them with caring, compassion, and with respect. We must continue to work globally and locally, not just to save lives, but to restore dignity and hope to some of the world's most vulnerable people. I want to thank you all for the privilege of being here today to mark World Refugee Day. And I just want to emphasize at the end my remarks that the United States and the American people stand with refugees. We stand together. Pamoja Tusonge Mbele, Asanteni Sana. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. Let's appreciate His Excellency as he goes to sit down. Okay.
The celebrations are ongoing at the Nairobi Museums here in Kenya. World Refugee Day being commemorated today amidst everything that's going on, not just in Kenya, but internationally as well. That was U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Bob Godek, speaking on the issue, funding and the plight of refugees in the country and indeed around the world. Now, University's Academic Staff Union, UASU, has petitioned the Education Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, to disband the University Council for allegedly frustrating the recruitment of a new Vice-Chancellor. UASU further wants the Chancellor of Kenyatta University to be sacked for appointing former Vice-Chancellor Professor Olive Mugenda to the position of CEO of the University Health System Limited. Professor Mugenda was appointed to the position after her retirement from the Vice-Chancellor's position.
If they continue doing what they are doing and mismanaging the university, we are ready to go and put a petition. You know that, first of all, they appointed the former Vice-Chancellor as the CEO of a non-existent entity called Kenyatta University Healthcare System Limited. That does not exist. They created it from nowhere and they appointed her to be the CEO, enjoying the same terms and conditions of a Vice-Chancellor. That is creating two centers of power with a position that doesn't exist.
We are asking the government, through the Ministry of Education, to dissolve this council and also to send away the Chancellor of this Kenyatta University, because he's the problem here. They have violated Kenyatta University charter and statutes.
That's all we had for you on KTN News Desk, right here on KTN News, where you get the whole story. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us. I'm Yvonne Okwara Matole. Have a good afternoon, but stay with us because Abby Agina is next with Business Today.